Hey, Salvador Briggman here. Welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demon Spawn YouTube channel. On this channel, we talk a lot about Kickstarter, Indiegogo, how to get projects funded, how to bring a new idea into the real world. And specifically today, I want to get into some of rapid fire sort of bullet point tips when it comes to turning an idea into a product, some of the things that you need to be aware of, some of the tips that I have for you. And we're getting into that in today's video. And if you do enjoy my videos, man, please give me a thumbs up and let me know that you like them. Thank you so much if you decided to do that. With that being said, let's get right into this video. Okay, brother, so you're like, how do I turn this idea into reality? Or if I'm doing this prototype, I know I'm botching this thing. What are some of the tips? What are some of the things that I should be aware of? So I'm gonna go through this in kind of a bullet point fashion. I'm gonna try and keep it very succinct for you. Again, my name is Salvador Briggman. I've been in the crowdfunding industry since 2012. I'm also an author. I got 10 books, which I've written out there on many different subjects. And I love putting out free education information to really empower you, to empower humankind to reach its full potential. And that's kind of my passion, if you will. So let's get right into this. Okay. So tip number one when it comes to this is to be aware of where you are in the process. And that tip usually begins with some kinds of concept sketches. So usually you have some kind of an idea and you need to get it out on paper. It could be on graph paper, it could be on like drawing pads, something like that. You could even be using digital if you want to. But I would say that getting this out into a concept sketch with different angles is the first tip that I have for you when it comes to turning an idea into an actual product. So make sure you do your concept sketches. Tip number two is to try out making a model. And this could be out of household items. This could be out of foam core. This could be out of wood. This could be out of anything, right? That you can use to kind of get a model of this product. And the reason why we do that is to understand how the user interfaces with the product. So understand how someone might use it, how it looks, the size dimensions, these different things. It could be a model to scale or it could not. You can create a very simple model. And it's a great step after getting from the concept sketches, because then you're also going to get a better sense of how this looks. So make sure to make a model. It doesn't have to be a functional model, but it could just be an idea of how it looks and feels. Tip number three is to consider hiring someone or doing this yourself when it comes to getting a digital rendering of the product. So we have obviously concept sketches, and then you have more of like a 3D realistic rendering. So if you wanted to, I think this is a great next step just to get that idea leaping off of the page so you can show other people, they can get a sense of how this looks. Now this might not be designed for manufacturing necessarily, right? That's gonna be my next point, but this is a great way for you to just conceptualize what you're doing and show other people. And it's also something that's not necessarily that expensive to do either. So I recommend in some way getting this digitized. You have the model, you have an idea of maybe how this looks. You could get this digitized if you want to next. Now, one of the other tips that I would recommend as well, and there's so many different types of products that are out there, guys. Like, so for example, there's fashion items, there's people that are tech, gadget, gizmos, which requires engineering. So there's so many different things that are here that I'm trying to include on this video. So my next is to get a really crystal clear sense of what you need in order to actually make this product. Now, I would say this is actually a very important early question, but think about the materials. Think about the actual skills that you're going to need. So for example, if you created, for example, a new product made out of, we'll just say, using injection molding and a plastic mold, using plastic, then you might need to have some engineering components within that or some circuitry to make the thing actually work. Or you might need to have some software. So you need someone who can write software at a certain point in time. So I would say just take out a checklist and really start to think about, what do I need in terms of the actual items to assemble this product, right? What are the materials? What is it going to be made of? Is there any kind of machinery that I'm going to need an engineer's help with? Is there any kind of circuitry or electrical engineering that I'm going to need help with? Is there any kind of software component to this? Is it going to be sewing, right? Do I need someone to help me manufacture that? What is the clothing material made of? There's so many different types of products out there. Think about what actually goes into making this, right? What are the materials? Are those the best? And thinking as well about where you might source these from. My next tip for you, and this is probably one of the more exciting experiences I would say, is getting CAD drawings done, getting a CAD design done, really having a sense of measurements, being able to kind of flip this around, getting a very clear sense of what this looks so you can begin to eventually work with manufacturers, etc. I think this is a great something. This is actually very difficult to do if you ever learn CAD yourself. You can do that if you want to learn AutoCAD, or there are other kinds of softwares out there, or you could hire a company to do this, or you could hire a freelancer to help you out, or someone in your own local area if you want. But I would say this is another great tip when it comes to turning your idea into a physical product. Want to take all the stress out of fulfilling your Kickstarter rewards? Fulfillrite is the turnkey solution that puts product delivery on autopilot. The top campaigns use this trusted high-tech provider to store, package, and ship their products. Focus on growing your business. Leave shipping to the experts. Don't wait. Get a custom quote from Fulfill Right today. Link in the description. My next tip is to really make a prototype and close to as end game as you can, right? Something that's a little bit more the golden sample. And typically you're working with other people when it comes to this, but I think this is a really great step. Now there's a difference between prototyping and actually manufacturing, right? And those who have gone through that process know that's a very different thing to make a prototype and actually to mass produce something. I do think this is a good next tip, and it should be as close to the fully fledged thing. For example, a backpack as possible. It doesn't have to be the exact working prototype though at the end of the day. This is also typically when a lot of my students will get close to the crowdfunding campaign phase where they're raising money on Kickstarter or Indiegogo. But I would say making a prototype is also another tip which I would recommend, and really identifying what is the objective or the purpose of the prototype, and as well, am I going to be testing out certain functionality? Am I testing out the feel of it, how it works? Does it fit the things that I want to? For example, if it's a backpack or those kinds of things, think about that prototype carefully. The next tip that I have for you has a little bit more to do with manufacturing. Now we are skipping a couple of different phases here, and there's actually a lot of iteration that goes as well. Obviously, when it comes to bringing together a new product, it would be mulling things over and problems that crop up. For example, if you do your initial mold or your initial model, and then you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that I need to do this or change that, right? Or you're doing your initial CAD drawings, you're like, oh, I gotta change this stuff, right? So there's always refinement that happens throughout these processes and these procedures. But I would say that the next one that I wanted to point out, at least for you, is to be aware of manufacturing. Where are you sourcing these different components, and what is actually the technological procedures, or actually the type of manufacturing which you are going to be doing. In addition, I think it makes a lot of sense to actually study that a tiny bit. I know it's so boring, it's very dry, right? Unless you're like really into that and you're an engineer. But the more you can study different manufacturing processes, specifically for the ones that relate to your product category, and also where in the world are those products made? How are they assembled? Are some components made in one part of the world and then they're put together in another part? How would that work, right? Thinking just a tiny bit through the supply chain at this point in time is really going to help you, and also obviously seeking out manufacturers, et cetera. But thinking about that supply chain is definitely a very big step when it comes to getting a product made, but it's gonna help you so much. It's also gonna get you really just your wheels turning when it comes to bringing this idea into a reality, and also something that you can impact the world with, because you have to obviously make many products to impact the world. Another tip that I have for you has to go with actual testing, okay? So you kind of wanna think of yourself as a scientist. And this is actually how I think of myself. I think of myself as a scientist. I think of myself as an explorer. I also think of myself obviously as a teacher, because I have lots of books out there and I love teaching new concepts and stuff like that. But I really love to pioneer concepts as well. And for me, being a scientist, you have to try things out. You have to experiment, and then you have to have some kind of a test. Like, you know what, this is my hypothesis. This is how I think people are going to use my product. You then have to give it to a bunch of people, have them try it out, and then analyze those results. Did they enjoy it in the way that you thought they would? Did this functionality work how you anticipated? Did they interface with the product? Did they use it in the types of situations that you imagined they would use it? Did problems crop up, right? Run different experiments with particular end users and go through a feedback cycle with the product. So for example, you're getting feedback and then you're identifying improvements. You're getting feedback, you're identifying improvements, right? And as you go, it's become more and more refined. It's almost like the more and more that this gets refined, it starts to turn into a diamond, right? And you start to get that final golden product, which has happened just through iterations of people trying it out, getting user feedback, getting testing, and realizing you have to make micro adjustment, or in some cases, rethink a little bit of the design. And this is really how incredible products are made. Obviously, incredible products are made by teams of people, but in a different refinement, testing. This is something that's all common when it comes to coming out with new product ideas. The last thing that I want to kind of point out on this video is really just having, it's kind of a weird way to say it, I guess, but like having access to different minds, different brains, different ways of thinking, okay? Because typically if you're an individual, you have a very particular way of thinking, right? So you might be more creative like myself, or you might be more engineering mindset like someone else, right? So you might have your own way of thinking. The more you can get your product around other people that obviously you trust, whether that's coaches, whether that's people that you're hiring in terms of your employees, or people that you're working with, your teammates, the more you can also brainstorm problem and solution sets. So there are different solution solutions, for example, to particular problems which might come up. Some of those might be engineering related solutions. Other ones might be material based, right? Other ones might be in terms of the actual form factor of the product, or redesigning how it works or how it solves this particular problem. There are many different ways of coming up with solutions to particular problems as you get more and more users using your product. And the more you have access to other people with different types of ways of thinking, really opening the way that you think, having an open mindset, the more likely you are to solve those problems very quickly and identify solutions that you might even think of, right? When it comes to getting this product out there. And at the end of the day, dude, that is exactly what you need to go through. You need to persevere, you need to have passion, but you need to solve problems along the way. So I got another great video out there walking you through step-by-step how to actually make a product, some of the major stages. I have another video out there going through some of the resources which you can use to prototype a product. So go and check out some of my other videos out there that I got there on my channel. I also do one-on-one intensive coaching calls. If you are serious about this, you want to talk about your particular product. Is this a good idea? This is their merit. Where are you? How could you even do a Kickstarter campaign for this one day? How could you raise money for this? I talk about this a lot. So you can book a one-on-one coaching call with me down below, as well as check out some of my other resources. But I hope you enjoyed this video and more of a rapid fire session. Give me a thumbs up if you did like it. Come subscribe for more content just like this, and I will see you next time.